Hey guys, I'm back for a quick video. Today I want to answer the question, what is the best filler item for an item filter in Minecraft? The idea to make this video was based on a discussion we recently had in the Cycraft Discord about this topic, and I want to show you the conclusion of this discussion. So I'm going to show you filter items or filler items from worst to best. Definitely the worst one would be just an item of the same type in the same item filter. You can get away with this if you actually have a hopper line going across. But there's like multiple ways this could actually be broken. So that actually works fine, as you can see here. Filters out different wool types. But first issue is already if your storage is filled up completely, then at some point what's gonna happen is that, the filter will break because more items will go to the other slots. You only want a single item in those slots to not mess with the signal strength in the back. So what's gonna happen next? The signal strength is gonna so high, it's gonna bleed over to the next item filter, and this will break as well. Of course, this also wouldn't work if you have a water stream going across, because then the stacks of items could immediately go to the second slot, even if the storage is not filled up. So there's multiple reasons why this is not great. The next best thing is using a different item. Ideally, it's something that's not associated with the farm. So something that the farm doesn't produce, and also something that the farm isn't made of. In case some blocks are broken, they could then also ruin the item filters. So for example, Lily of the Valley is pretty good because there's very little reason that a Lily of the Valleys would end up, for example, in your wool farm. Of course, in case of a flower farm, this might be a bit different. What people like to use are iron nuggets in a lot of cases because you can just, or gold nuggets, because you can just bring a block. Even if you have to fill hundreds of item filters, you need always 4 each. Yeah, you can do this with a single stack of blocks. For most applications, this should already be safe and good enough, but we want to find the safest possible filler item. So what if maybe somebody for some reason carries Lily of the Valley, dies next to your filter system and breaks the filters? So we need something safer. So what you could do, of course, is to rename your items in an anvil to whatever you want, but ideally actually use fonts that nobody on your server uses. For example, we could use Japanese fonts and use that. So it would already be quite unlikely that somebody renames Lily of the Valleys the same way in Japanese characters, but it could still happen, so we can still do better. So there are a couple hundred items in the game you can choose from, but we're looking for something a bit more personalized. For example, you could actually use a banner and just create it in a unique way. So somebody would need to carry the same unique banner already in his inventory for some reason, and maybe, of course, you can still rename it however you want. Be quite unlikely that this would end up in your item filter. There's just a downside with the banners. They only stack to 16, so this would actually affect your item filter a bit. You can see the first slot could hold fewer items. So what would actually be better than using banners would be using rockets. So there's almost an endless amount of variations how you can craft firework rockets, but it's still not completely endless. Something that also has a really high uniqueness and stacks to 64 would be a compass that is linked to a certain position in a world with the Lodestone. So there's 60 by 60 million times world height, 384 unique positions. A compass could be linked to a Lodestone that's over a quadrillion unique positions. So it would be quite unlikely that somebody in his inventory has a compass that is linked to the same position with the Lodestone. In case you have some bedrock items, you could also be a bit more safe and replacing the lodestone later with that to make it even harder. And of course, you could also still rename with the anvil. So this is already pretty good. But of course, there's only a limited amount of unique positions. So there might be a chance somebody accidentally really chooses the same one. There's actually something in the game that can't be recreated, and that's a map. So in case you have an empty map and you create the first one, it has a certain ID. Then even if you're in the same area and you create another map that looks exactly the same, it has the next higher ID. So you can't by accident create the same map and put it in your item filter system. So that's already quite unique. Unfortunately, there's actually a limit to how many maps you can make. So it's kind of nice. The map would also stack to 64. but there used to be a limit of 65,000 maps you can make in older versions, but now this, as far as I know, has been increased to 32 bits, so 2.147 billion maps you can make, but yeah, at a certain point, you wouldn't be able to make new maps for your item filter system anymore, so it's still not the perfect item. There's actually another downside of the map in case you're playing single player or if you're a server owner. Each map you make creates its own little file in case you ever need to make a backup or move your world files somewhere. Yeah, thousands of little files are usually worse than one really big file. So this is also a little bit of a problem with the map. So something that can be also completely unique and doesn't have a limit like the maps or the lodestone position would be a book that you write yourself. So if you sign it, yeah, you're the author of the book and give it a title. So unless you write the same book again or you break your item filter system yourself, this would also never break. There's also a downside, unfortunately. We're still not at the perfect item. Those books also only stack to 16. So you can make it work with the item filters in some cases, but for example, this one already has to be rewired. So it's still not at the perfect item. But what is the perfect filler item? So I already have it in my inventory. Something that is actually easy to produce. It's either a bee nest block or even easier, a beehive block that has bees inside. So the beehive item or nest stacks up to 64. That's pretty good. So we can still use it with the filler item. And if you put a bee inside, it gets very, very unique. We can take a look at the data get block command that shows us all the data that is saved inside of this block that you can also pick up as an item. So each bee that goes inside of there has a UUID, so that's a 128-bit number that gets generated. Of course, it's still a finite amount, but it's basically impossible to use up all the UUIDs. So in case you generate 1 million bees every second, you need to do this for 85,000 years until all the numbers are used up. So I guess it's very likely you won't be alive in 85,000 years and your Minecraft server world also won't be running. So, and how would you even generate 1 million bees per second? So probably it's going to take you even longer that you get 2 bees that have the same UID somehow. And of course you could also put multiple bees inside of the beehive and then it gets even more unique. So it's basically impossible that this would ever happen accidentally. Of course, you can still also alternate some of the other stuff that is saved there. For example, each bee is also aligned to a certain flower position. So that's basically comparable to the compass feature we have. So there's another quadrillion unique flower positions that this could be assigned to. Then you could, for example, give the bee a potion effect. That's what I did here. It has swiftness for 9,323 ticks. You could decrease its health to make it even more unique. And so on and so on. You can rename the bee with Japanese characters. Then you can rename the second bee in a different way. And then you can rename the whole beehive item after that as well. And the best, you can actually, with a bee nest farm, automatically farm those as well. You just need to grow some birch trees. And then there's a chance that a bee nest will generate. Can mine that block and have unique filter item that you farmed while AFK. So this is probably the best filler item for an item filter because it's basically impossible to recreate that. And of course, there's still general item duping methods in the game that could give you a second of those beehives. You can also just do it in creative mode by making more. But yeah, what kind of item wouldn't be affected by that? So from our discussion, it seems like the beehive is as good as it gets, but maybe we missed something. So let me know in the comments if you know of an item that would be even more safe for an item filter. Thanks guys for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.